Just letting you guys know you can listen to my No Bleeps podcast anywhere you stream podcasts or on my No Bleeps YouTube channel. Link in the description. Hey guys, it's Spilly and welcome back to Spill Sesh. Today we are talking about Gabbie Hanna because Gabbie has returned to her channel to continue her series with a video titled Chapter 6.1 Smiles for the Camera. This video is in honestly multiple parts. Gabbie had pre-filmed these individual chapters to her series prior to Jessi coming out with her video and all of the responses from the public. And so the beginning of this video is kind of what she had already pre-filmed. Then she inserted text clips of her talking about Jessi, responding to the more recent stuff that has been brought up again. And then it goes back into what she had already pre-filmed prior to Jessi's recent video. So I'm gonna break down what has exactly been said in this new video series from Gabbie. Honestly, this video is a lot of he said, she said, she said, she said situation. And I'm really just going to be telling you guys what she has said. If you guys don't know what happened between Jessi and Gabbie and what Jessi's video was about, I have a whole video breaking down everything, and this is going to just be breaking down the most recent information that has been said about the friendship that they had and everything that transpired after and before it. So in this video that Gabbie has posted, the latest episode to her series, she included an author's note in the description of the video that read, "Long time no see, I'm back. I felt myself being distracted from my goal and getting caught up in all the petty lies, wanting to explain and over-explain and explain again. And then I remembered why I did this series, so I could say my piece and never look back. Everything I wanted to say has been said in these vlogs. I can't control whether or not people listen, but repeating myself isn't going to change that. This is for me and my fans and for anybody else who actually cares to listen. All I've wanted all these years is peace and separation from the person who grew dangerously attached and obsessed to a short-lived, shallow friendship. Yes, we called each other best friends. We were young and meeting new people in Hollywood. It's really not that deep. I've done everything I can to remain civil and calm the waters, but she never stopped attacking. It got to a point where my silence was misquoted, where my lack of defense was an admission of guilt, so here I am doing the thing I never wanted to do. I removed all the personal stories that I needed to vent out, but don't want to have public. Those are the ones that end up in a folder on a hard drive there for my records. Those are my journal. What you see here is what I feel is relevant to the point without getting into the details of what happened between young girls who barely knew each other 6 to 7 years ago. She said in her last video, as she always does, that she doesn't care what I say next and that she's letting it go. I highly, highly doubt that, but we can all pray. I wanted to be done talking about this in 2015, but I'm not going to say I'll never speak about it again. As long as she and her friends continue lying, if I feel the need or desire to defend myself, I will. But for the most part, I'll be continuing to work on my music and art. She's relentless because she has no other art or content that inspires her, so hopefully she can just find whatever that is and leave me alone. She said her side over and over, and now I've said mine. Let's see if that can be enough." Now, I must say that Gabbie trying to downplay her friendship with Jessi is just all too similar to Trisha trying to downplay the friendship that didn't occur between them and Gabbie. And so to see Gabbie, who was literally fighting Trisha so hard about whether or not they've ever been friends, to see her come out and say that her and Jessi are practically strangers is very interesting. Very, very interesting. But anyways, this video starts off with Gabbie talking about Alex James, who has come out and spoken against Gabbie before. They were once friends, and Gabbie brings him up and tells a little bit about the history of their friendship and things that he has said to her. Said that he's bullied her, said that she needed liposuction, needed to lose 15 to 20 pounds, that needed a nose job, and then said that he actually got lipo in a nose job and he just like pretended that he got into a car accident, filmed a whole story time in order to cover up the fact that he got lipo and a nose job. It was very random, and information I feel like I didn't even need to know, but that is what Gabbie said right off the bat at the very start of this video. Gabbie also stresses in this video quite heavily that she just doesn't understand how Jessi doesn't talk about Alex James the way that she talks about Gabbie, because of the fact that Alex was friends with Curtis Lepore, even though the news of Jessi and Curtis Lepore came out, but Gabbie is looked at as the person that is just so evil for being friends with Curtis Lepore, even though she wasn't even friends with Jessi at the time. Gabbie goes into greater detail about this later on in the video, but I know from Jessi's video that Jessi has said that Alex has apologized both publicly and privately to her for all of this, and that is that. I don't think they're friends of any sort at the moment. They're just not on super bad terms. But Gabbie is extremely frustrated, saying that Jessi is just out to get her and destroy her and her career, make her look like a super bad person for ever, you know, hearing out Curtis Lepore, ever being friends with Curtis Lepore, even though at the time when everything came out, she was not friends with Jessi and did later apologize. Although Jessi explained in her video that once Gabbie started to deny ever making comments against Jessi and things like that, that is really when she felt like Gabbie's apology wasn't true and things like that, and thus kind of blew up the drama between the two of them. This is to my understanding. Gabbie says that Jessi has always brought her up. She's always indirectly talking about her, and says that for years has been obsessed with keeping the narrative alive that they had this crazy, dramatic, toxic fallout. And Gabbie tried to say that she barely even knows Jessi, and says that they were only friends for a few months and basically Jessi is a stranger to her. This entire portion of the video that is just text and trying to explain who Jessi is, Jessi's character, and trying to explain their friendship in their past is really just saying that Jessi is super fixated on Gabbie and trying to paint their friendship out as to be this horrible, horrible situation and this super toxic friendship, when in Gabbie's mind, she feels like Jessi will just not stop secretly kind of bringing her up in videos, using her for clickbait, all of this stuff, just feeling like Jessi is constantly trying to use Gabbie's name for clicks and things of that nature and will not leave Gabbie alone for some strange reason. That is what Gabbie is saying about Jessi for the most part in this entire video. And with Gabbie saying that Jessi is the person that keeps bringing up this drama, I don't think that Jessi would have said anything if it wasn't for the fact that this series was about to come out and Gabbie had mentioned her in a recent BuzzFeed article interview. I think if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be talking about this. Gabbie says that Jessi has piggybacked off of Trisha's lies with more lies and liked tweets that were negative towards Gabbie, which led to more tweets being made about Gabbie, accusing her of siding with Curtis Lepore over her friend Jessi, which ultimately ruined Gabbie's entire reputation and caused her all of this pain and harm and lost sponsorships, lost friendships, people in her life getting harassed and all of that stuff. To which, you know, we know from Jessi's mouth, Jessi has said that at the time of when the news broke of what happened to Jessi, even Jessi was saying that her and Gabbie were not friends at that time. Jessi and Gabbie became friends after news had spread about what happened between Curtis Lepore and Jessi. When that TMZ article came out, her and Gabbie were not friends. And that's something that Jessi has even clarified in videos. And their falling out was afterwards, after all of this. But back to what Gabbie was saying in this video, Gabbie says that her and Jessi had periods of time where they were cool after their toxic few month-long friendship. And she details that their toxic friendship shouldn't be public and it's nobody's business. And it is true. I think everybody is pretty much under the same impression of all of this, that whatever happened between the two of them, it really should just be kept private and offline, and this shouldn't be talked about anymore. The constant back and forth is very, very toxic, and it's not good at all. Obviously, Gabbie still feels like she needs to put a lot of these false allegations against her name to rest. And I just think bringing all of this up again isn't going to help anything, because stirring the pot on this situation like this is just not good. But Gabbie does say that there was a period in time where Jessi and her were on good terms, So much so that Jessi asked her if she could edit Gabbie's videos, which is something we have heard about before. Gabbie says that Jessi doesn't think I'm a dangerous person. She's just obsessed with hurting me a lot, and she has hurt me a lot. And says things about Jessi like she's very good at playing the victim when she is and always has been the aggressor. She calls Jessi a master manipulator. Gabbie says, even if every single thing that Jessi says that I did was true, her and I squashed it and we were fine until it was popular and trendy to hate me and she saw an opportunity. Gabbie is saying, why does Jessi think I need to be deplatformed just because I spoke my side? And continues by saying, and that's the thing that truly makes me feel crazy, is that the world doesn't see that the real toxicity in all of these situations, not just with Jessi, is smiling in someone's face, pretending to be on good terms, pretending to have open communication with them, and then the second there's an opportunity to gain something, throwing them under the bus and literally ruining somebody's life. This situation, I think, applies to more than just Jessi. This is a situation that Gabbie is referring to also the Joey Graceffa and Daniel Prada situation. Situations where Gabbie feels like she's on good terms with somebody and then they go on a podcast and talk about how she was a nightmare to work with on Escape the Night. Or she feels like she's good with Jessi, and then Jessi brings up a story time where she kind of throws shade at an old friend that she had, and Gabbie feels like she's being talked about. And something that a lot of people have been saying is, you can be cool with somebody, but just because you forgive someone doesn't mean that you forgot about the situation, and doesn't mean that you have promised to never speak about that situation ever again. If something happened to you, you do have the right to talk about it and vent about it, and that's simply what all these people have done. And obviously Gabbie sees that as these people being fake to her. Obviously Gabbie just doesn't like being talked about, and because people have talked about their experiences with Gabbie, she feels like she needs to make this entire series, bring up all these things, call out all the people that she feels like she was cool with and turned out to be fake because they talked about her, when a lot of the response to the series has just been, they did kind of have a right to talk about you, and this series isn't helping. And that's kind of the uncomfortable part about this entire series. But I do see how Gabbie is frustrated. She feels like these people have forgiven her, and that she feels like that means they are not going to talk about the situations that upset them with Gabbie. And so she feels a little bit betrayed by these people. But I think in these other people's heads, they're just kind of like, yeah, sure, Gabbie, like, I forgive you and, we're all good. But if somebody's going to ask them about it, they're going to be like, well, you know what? Like, someone was kind of a nightmare to work with on Escape the Night. And even if they don't mention her by name, indirectly talking about Gabbie is still upsetting to Gabbie. Even though Gabbie feels like this is a chance for her to defend herself, calling these people out for being fake and defending what has been said about her directly or indirectly, bringing up stories like Jessi specifically, a lot of people find that inconsiderate. Whereas Gabbie's looking at it as like, it's really inconsiderate that she's talking about me. Gabbie does say that Trisha Paytas and Jessi Smiles are the same person, which this is very interesting. I do not think they're the same at all whatsoever, but this is what Gabbie's claiming, and says that they come up with lies. The two of them are friends. They support each other. And Gabbie says so much has been taken from her because of all of this, because of things that the two of them have said and other people as well, and says that she is completely isolated in the community. Other creators do not like her because it is trendy to not like her. And Gabbie has had to up her security in her home because she's scared, because she's been getting threats. She's afraid to drive because people have threatened to fray her brakes, and she can't enjoy her platform that she worked so hard for because of everything that's ever been said about her and all the hate that always comes her way. And she says, for what am I receiving all of this? Because I hurt Jessi's feelings in 2015. Gabbie says Jessi is a virtual stranger and is the root to Gabbie losing everything, feeling unsafe, and having her friends even go through harassment. And something that Gabbie says in this video is her and her best friend, Jen, harass and threaten me every single day. Finally, I have a phone call with her, and then Jessi uses it against me a year later. Something I want to say about this is that Jessi released clips of the phone call that she had with Gabbie Hanna on Twitter, but then there's the argument of people saying, hey, you brought her up in a BuzzFeed article, you could have declined to comment. obviously she was going to say something. You said you were making a series about her. Before you could release the phone call, she released the phone call. You know, her saying that Jessi tried to use this phone call against her, Gabbie literally was going to do the same thing. But anyways, she says that Jessi just wants to take everything from her. And then this is kind of when the video goes back in time, and it's the portion of the series that was filmed prior to Jessi's most recent video, and Gabbie is talking about what it was like to be friends with Jessi after all the Curtis Lepore stuff had come out, saying that once Jessi told her everything, she made a choice to be pro Jessi, and every creator was pro Curtis, so she did not have any friends because she was friends with Jessi, and everybody thought that Jessi was this clout chaser. She was clout chasing off of Curtis, that she was this mean girl. And Gabbie says that it's just not okay to think about someone this way when they say that something has happened to them. And she hopes that this series, if it could do any good and any good could come out of it, it's just that a lesson should be learned not to assume things about other people. And Gabbie says that she realized that she made a mistake and she had apologized for that mistake, and she wasn't even friends with Jessi at the time when all that news was coming out about Curtis and Jessi and the TMZ article and the comments and the tweets that she did make. She apologized to Jessi for, and she said that a part 2 about all of this was going to be coming out. This is a lot, you guys. This situation is a lot. It's just really heavy. Obviously, Gabbie is painting Jessi in this very horrible light, saying she is this master manipulator. She is obsessed with Gabbie Hanna. She just is obsessed with ruining Gabbie's life. I mean, something that Gabbie does say in this video is that this story sounds intense to talk about, especially because it's somebody else's story, but it's now a part of my story, and that was Jessi's choice to do that. That was something that I noted from this video, is that, you know, Gabbie did acknowledge that talking about this particular friendship, this particular situation that went down between her and Jessi is a very intense story, and it is somebody else's story. It's Jessi's story, but feels like Jessi brought her into this, and so she deserves to talk about it. So that seems to be her final thoughts on why she is bringing all of this up, and I definitely want to know what you guys think about all of this. I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye, guys.